Hello ladies, I hope you're well. I'm Mrs. Sherman and I have a blog I'd like you to go to watch this on just because it's got a little more pleasant background and you're not distracted by other videos. And if you're new here, you can leave a comment there. I don't have comments on the channel. I can interact better with you if you will comment on my blog. And also you get to go around and see what else I'm talking about, what else I'm writing. And I've been here since 2005, I think, or maybe earlier. And I have weathered a lot, as you know, and I have been trying to help ladies at home adjust to being at home and to make it a beautiful life. And so today I'm going to give you a few more hints, and I'm going to show you my teacup, but then I would like you to listen as you work. These are designed to listen as you go. I love videos on YouTube, but I have to stop and watch. It's nice to have some kind of company and listen as you go, and I won't interfere. And you don't have to come to a Ladies' Day class. You don't have to come to a seminar. You don't have to leave your family. You don't have to leave your responsibilities. You can turn it off and on. It is just a wonderful thing, a wonderful tool we have here in a wonderful era that we are living in, despite anything anyone might try to do to spoil it for us. I have a lot to say about that later on, but I'm going to try to leave it on a pleasant note. And so today I am in my little guest room. I'd like to show a better background, but I have a backlight from the windows that I can't seem to get dark enough to show you. So I would love to do a video in front of a different area here because it's so pretty, but I just couldn't manage it today. I tried it. And my teacup today, of course, goes with my little blouse and the flowers in the background, and it's one of those stitched cold china, greasy bone china, and it's dishwasher safe. And as you know, I like these with the wide bowl cups. I really do love them, and I think the tea tastes better. And I think you should drink tea, and I want to tell you why. And I will read off of a list that I wrote from many different sources that I got off the web. And I will do that because, but I want to show you my book today. And I might be reading to you a little bit more. And I want you to work and get your work done. So I don't want to sit here and show you things. And I don't want to be watched all the time. But I have been going through my books. And I wanted to tell you something about books is you need to get them out. You need to flip the pages like this and air them out. They will start smelling bad if you leave them stored for a long, long time. So get them out, lay them on your coffee table, and turn the pages because they will kind of disintegrate. And I noticed the dust will get in here. And that's why I suggest that you take a feather duster and dust the books. This one is called the Lennox Book of Entertaining and Home Etiquette. It is a lovely book, and I haven't been showing you this. With these last books that I've been showing you from Victoria Magazine, they have lovely end papers. So I just want to show this to you very quickly, and I will just put pictures of it on. But they have these lovely decorative end papers. They look like this, the modern scrapbooking papers. You can make your own book, Just get out your scrapbook papers and make your own book. Put in it what you want. And so these are the lovely end papers, and just a pleasure. If you're a book lover, you love to touch it, you love to see it. And it's just a wonderful it's like the entrance of your home or the front porch. It just gives you a flavor of what's going to go on inside, a little sample. So here's the soft picture, and it's this beautiful blue with a white stamp on it. And so I will show you some pictures, but it's kind of hard. It will have a glare on them, and I will put pictures on the post for you. And so I want to show you this, and then we will have the lecture. This is the Home Entertainment by Lennox. Now, Lennox was a company that I believe produced china, glassware, and maybe silverware. I am not sure. But in the olden days, when a company wanted business, and of course, I love free enterprise, I love business, I love invention, and I'm a true Victorian. And when they wanted you to buy their product, they would produce a book or something that would give you ideas of how to use their product. For example, when they were selling the cotton string, that the crochet cotton string, and in order to make their product sell, they would give you a free book on how to make a little, what were those pot holders called? They had the crocheted roses and things like that. I forget, they're called. They were just little pads that you could put your teapot on, or you could put on the table. And my mother-in-law had a lot of them crocheted by her sisters, and they would give them to her for birthdays, anniversaries, Christmas. And so when on Sunday, those would be on her table, and she would put her hot dishes of food on them. And it was so important to them. And so this book here is about about how to use their products. But it's very good. It's very nice. You found many cases where a cookbook would be given to you for free when you ordered a certain amount of their product. But they were actually pretty good. It wasn't just a gimmick. So this was written in 1989. And you know, the original price was $25. In 1989, what woman who's raising children in her right mind would spend $25 on a book? Well, now, I found this a couple of years ago. Safeway had a books. I don't know what books are doing at Safeway, but they had a table full of these books, and they were like $1, $2, and then you can find things like this at the Dollar Tree too. And there are books at the Dollar Tree that crafters are buying, that they can use to glue other things in and make a smash book, or just alter it. They're called altered books, and you could do all kinds of things because the book is already there. It's got a nice cover, and you can do so many different things with it. Just so exciting, isn't it? So I'm going to read the introduction to this, all right? And I'm going to read the contents first. So I want to first ask you to please go and get dressed and fix yourself up and give yourself and your family the gift of a beautiful, smiling woman with some perfume on and, fully dressed and being happy and acting like she's going to an important place, because I think you should treat yourself to going to an important place. And this morning, it can be a place to go and have tea. So I also want to read to you about why you should have tea. So the contents of this are: the perfect party giver, planning the party, weddings from engagement to reception. So there could be an engagement party, a reception. Now, in the olden days, when they had a reception, it was in the couple's new home, and they would display all the gifts in their home, and usually the gift was sitting on top of the paper it was wrapped in. You would take the tissue paper and you would set the little bowl on it, and then you'd put the card next to it so people could take a little walk past the table and see who gave what. So that was what you got to see, the wedding presents. Now I don't think you get to see what they are, what the wedding presents are. I think that's sad in a way, don't you? Because it's sort of celebratory to go and see what they have and how they used it. So holiday parties, casual parties, formal occasions, setting the table, choosing and caring for tableware. And so now I'm going to read the foreword of this. Trenton, New Jersey in the late 1800s fired the pottery of America and the dreams of Walter Scott Lennox. 100 years ago, in the flourishing center of American pottery, his creative instincts were directed toward the art of ceramics. Aware that the fledgling American industry was unable to produce a china fine enough to compete with centuries-old European ware, Walter Scott Lennox founded the Ceramic Art Company in 1889, determined to reverse the trend. Now you notice his name was Walter Scott. The Americans used to name their children after beloved heroes of their beginnings. So there were a lot of people with the first name of George Washington And there were a lot of people with the name of Walter Scott. Later on, one of the most admired presidents, Andrew Jackson, inspired an entire country with this name Jackson. And there was Andrew Jackson Downey, and um, just a lot of children named Jackson or Andrew Jackson. A lot of last names was Jackson, and there were so many Jacksons, so many towns with that name in it, and so many places and so many things. We should have been called Jackson, our country, because there's so much of that, and because Andrew Jackson was one of the most admired presidents, and you might not have heard of him, but our duly elected and beloved president has a picture of Andrew Jackson behind him, a painting behind him whenever he's interviewed in, I believe it might be the Oval Office. This is the one with the yellow decorations and the yellow chairs. So Andrew Jackson had a big effect on America because he took away the central bank and the usury that was placed on the American people, and broke the back of this terrible privately owned company for 75 years. And after that, the American people grew at an alarming rate for these people that didn't want America to succeed, became very industrious and very prosperous and very inventive and very colorful. So acknowledgement that Walter Scott Lennox had succeeded, the American could produce china of the finest quality, and for the first time an American china was selected for official White House use, a 1,700-piece Lennox dinnerware service. Since that time, the traditions of Lennox have become intertwined with the history of the White House, as subsequent services were commissioned by the presidents through Ronald Reagan. Of course, this was written in 1989, and that, I believe, was the Reagan era. Lennox takes great pride in superior craftsmanship. In 1965, having established the highest standards of excellence for china, Lennox acquired the oldest crystal glass blowing company in the country as the perfect complement to its fine china. With a proud heritage dating back to 1841, Lennox Crystal is a leader in the art of handcrafted full-lead crystal. Lennox Crystal has been selected for official use by the Vice President of the United States and by the State Department and Congress for presentation to dignitaries and heads of state throughout the world. So I won't read the rest of it, but it's more about how they used it in the White House. Okay, so now I'm going to read about the introduction here. Party giving is an art, one born of the imaginative thinking of the people who give parties. Inspiration plays an important role in the best parties, providing the novel touches that make them perfect. But as with any art, party giving is not mastered without lots of practice. Now, I have told you, if you want to show hospitality, which is a Christian obligation, which is borne out in the New Testament, if you want to learn the art of hospitality, start with your own family. Learn to set the table and do a little formality there, and learn how to cook and present foods so that they look nice. Learn all about and practice on your family, because that's the way that you will become at ease with it. That's when the nervousness goes away. Is you find a favorite meal or two, or I would say tea is probably the best thing, because you don't have to have hot food on the table all at the same time. Make a few tea sandwiches, do it excellently, and a few treats, and practice it on your family. Don't make other people more important than your family, and practice it until you feel at ease. And then when you invite somebody over, you're serving a well-known menu, and you will feel at ease with it. That's the only way to do it. So I want to show you a picture, and I have shown this on my blog before I started doing videos, and it is called Breakfast in Bed. And I will I will put this on my blog so you can see it a little bit better. And I wondered about when I was reading it, what if you were alone? How would you get breakfast in bed? And I have a friend that has such a brilliant idea, and she lives alone, and she said that what she did was she has a little slow cooker that can be on low and cook something, and it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be traditional breakfast food, but she says when she gets up in the morning that it feels like someone has been there and cooked for her. What a brilliant idea. I've got one of those little tiny slow cookers because I don't want to cook a lot, but what a brilliant idea to have that waiting for you. Like a maid came in the night and fixed you something so that you'd have something ready when you got up in the morning. And I have heard of people making the hot apple cider cranberry drink in those so that there's always a hot drink. And hot drinks are so important for you because they flush out all the toxins and viruses out of your body. And I want to read something to you about that. If you've got something to do, I hope that you will go and do it. If you have not sat down and made your list, you need to do that. Maybe you need to turn this off, make yourself a list, and then go about and do your business at home. And I'm going to just put my gloves on because it's a little bit chilly here, and my fingers are cold. And I'm really amazed. You know, I went yesterday to all around, and I went to the post office, and I went to Walmart, and no one was wearing gloves. And I told you these are so cheap. They're 50 cents, $1 for 2 at Dollar Tree, and so you can have lots of them if they wear out. And I got to thinking that maybe the state could not make enough money off of gloves, so they're not pushing gloves. But they're really the secret to good health is wearing gloves, and this is what the Victorians believed too. So the benefits of drinking tea. Tea contains antioxidants. Now, of course, this varies according to what you're using, what kind of tea you're using. Tea has less caffeine than coffee. Tea may help. I heard you could drink 4 or 5 cups of tea to every 1 cup of coffee if you're drinking that has the caffeine in it. Now, most people probably aren't drinking the caffeinated tea, but it has lots of health benefits. Some of the tisanes and some of the other types of tea. Tea may help with weight loss, can reduce your blood pressure, reduce your stress, boost your immune system, calm the stomach, flush out toxins and viruses, and helps people fellowship and communicate. And I've copied this from thebenefitsoftea.com. And I have a little newsletter that I write every week for my ladies' Bible class. One of my problems is I don't think I can do something unless I do it in a real complicated and big way. And I'm just now training myself to be simple. So it's just one sheet, nothing on the back. And just before ladies' class starts, I sit down and write something on my heart in here. And I'll read this to you. Some of you might even get this in the mail. And it's handwritten, which I find faster and quicker than getting on the web and getting into a program. And then Mr. S prints it off for me on his little printer in his office. And so it's just got little suggestions on here, and it's called Elect Lady because that's what the Apostle John called the church. And I just thought that was such a sweet phrase. So and I even write up on the sides, and the side says, John 14:1, let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. And it's just light reading for ladies. And then I have a little recipe, easy cherry pies. Prepare graham crust pie shells, the small ones, can of cherry pie filling, and real whipped cream. Scoop cherry filling into the graham crust and add whipped cream. Now, isn't that quick? A child could do that. Now, here's some activity ideas. What can you do with a paper bag? You know, we've got our paper bags back, and I told you last time how tickled I was. Seems like something small, but there, I've got one, and all that paper. And so I am challenging myself to go back and see what all I used to do with paper bags. And in the olden days, when we were growing up, my mother taught us to make many things out of paper bags we could do. You could make a costume out of it for any season of the year, and we made scrapbooks out of them. We tied them with jute rope, very, very primitive. Things weren't all that pretty in those days. We live in a better era. And we could make dolls and little stuffed animals and just stuff them with something and glue them around the sides and clamp them with clothespins till they dried. You could make a dollhouse out of them. You could make decorations for your Christmas tree out of these just by drawing a shape on there with a cookie cutter and then painting it and glitterizing it. You can make a hat. I made a hat one time. I don't know where it is, but I actually made a hat. A hat for a little girl to wear. It was really cute, and I put stickers on it. I actually painted it and put stickers on it and ribbon to tie it with. And you can make so many things you just wouldn't believe what all you can make with those. And I believe on my blog somewhere way back in the olden days, there is a post on paper bag art, paper bag crafts. So I really would like to see what people do with paper bags. And now, your house. So I've talked to you about your appearance. I think it's really important. If you have not taken care of yourself, go and take care of yourself. Fix your hair. And of course, we all wish we were better looking and younger and thinner. But do your best. Do your best and smile and take care of your teeth and put a little cologne on. So I want to say that the appearance is so important because that sets the tone, that sets the mood, that gets you going. And you start life again when you take care of your appearance. And whenever someone has, in the Bible, when we read about someone who has been in sorrow or mourning, like David, and he was in such depression and such sorrow, but one day he got up and he bathed and he got dressed. And so I think that is the beginning, and it's a recovery from depression too, is to get up and get dressed. And there are many things to depress us. There are many things to discourage us. That's the very thing the enemy wants you to do, is to give up. But after what I've told you, what I've been through, and I haven't even told you the half of it, what I've been through, no one's going to stop me and no one's going to knock me down. Now, I'm not going to. So I have to be, and you have to be strong for your children. So now I want to go to the home. We do three things here. We do the appearance and preparation for the home for first thing in the morning. And it doesn't matter what time you get up, as long as you get up and you start that way. Even if you haven't gotten around to getting dressed at 11 o'clock, just go and do it and start the day. Doesn't matter what time you start. I'm not telling you to get up at 5 in the morning. So just get up when you've had enough rest. Get up, get dressed, and fix yourself up and enjoy yourself. And also, then we go to the home. And so I'll give you a few house tips, our home tips. And that was what home living was supposed to be all about, how to make living life at home beautiful and wonderful and the most desirable place in the world. And I want to also then go on to people, because we live around people. We have to learn how to mind our own business in the home, and how each of us has to have something to do. It has to have something. My mother told us if we weren't working and we weren't being diligent in something, we had to read. So we had to be quiet and read. And of course, she had 7 children. So, well, I was going to tell you I'd been around yesterday. I'd driven around and the traffic's actually pretty thick. And a lot of people have accused me of lying, and they've been saying, well, we'll just have to see about that. Well, it remains to be seen. I just love that comment, don't you? But it's quite active around here. We're in a farm community ourselves, and farming stops for no one. They go to market, and they, have to have their supplies, and they can't let their animals die, and they can't let their crops go. So they have to have fuel, and so the next city we go in to shop there, and the traffic's pretty good, and Walmart is open. And Walmart has saved the country, I am telling you. And I told you last time, you can't really shut down a business without a court order. Many businesses have been shut down, but they did it voluntarily, you see. So why should the state give a court order if they voluntarily shut down? But anyway, we'll go into that later. I've been around and I've been into Walmart and everything is stocked and it's serving the people with what you need. You know, you need to have cleaning supplies, you need to have good food, and you need to have comforts too. And so I would like to tell you when I come to the home hints to treat yourself to a clean bathroom and a clean kitchen, and everything else will take care of itself. Now, I used to think I had to start, you know, in the living room, the front door, the first room everyone would see. But by the time I finished with that, I didn't have much heart for the kitchen or the bathroom. So I found out if I do the kitchen and the bathroom first, and it's so sparkling clean, everything smells so nice, it's so pleasant, that the rest of the house, it's easy. The easier rooms, they are the easier rooms, and then you have a little energy left over for that. So treat yourself to a clean bathroom and a clean kitchen, and treat your children and your family to a pretty mother. And if you're alone, just treat yourself and do it for the Lord, and do it to glorify God, and you know your appearance reflects your Creator. So now I'm going to tell you about my conversation in Walmart. I was talking to a young man in the fabric department. There were men that were manning the fabric department, and they were lifting those heavy bolts of fabric and putting them away, and they were cutting some fabric for some ladies that were sewing. And so I wanted a little piece of something, and I asked him to cut it for me, and I said, "I'm so glad you all are here." I said, "You're so good to be serving the community like this." And he said, he was a young man, and he said, I can't hang around the house. I cannot stay home. He says, I have got to work. He says, it's just in my blood. I have to work. And he was also in charge of the fabric department, but he was also taking care of the paint department too. And there were a lot of young men working, and when I stopped and said anything to them, they said, yeah, we got to work. We have to work. And they were saying how thankful they were for their company, that they were letting them work. And work is a basic biblical right. It's a basic human right. What a way to destroy a country, to destroy the morale of people and depress them, than to deprive them of the very thing God created for them and gave to them. It's very unscriptural, it's very wicked, and it's very sinful. And God's not going to smile kindly on this type of thing. So it's going to be a little complicated today, but I hope that you will now start going to work. And hopefully I can get to read you something else and not get too much into politics. I didn't really want to get into politics, but I'll tell you two sites that you can go to that if you want to inform yourself and you are having a hard time weaning yourself off the media. I told you last time, that's the enemy of your home. Would you let someone come into your home and walk around in less than modest clothing? Would you let someone come into your home and tell you bad news all the time? Would you let someone sit in your home and just talk about boring stuff, or just advertise things? Would you let them do that? Well, you are when you're turning on the television, and they are going to demoralize you. They aren't going to help you do your housework. They're really not. They're not going to help you get your dishes done. But if you're having trouble weaning yourself off of it, go to the Ron Paul Liberty videos and just turn them on continuous play and listen to all of them. And you can go to The Amazing Polly. I believe she's a Canadian, and she's got some interesting connections, and how she connects a lot of the current events, and so then you could still be listening to politics that way, but it's nice, So I am going to read from a little book here called Thinking Heavenward, and it was written in 1908, and it's so old. Look at that. It's all, that probably began as a pretty end paper, but it's gone. And it's got old-fashioned typing in it, and I found it when I was going through my things. And it was written it's called Thinking Heavenward, and it's by Lillian D. Waters. Now, it's not the same as some of the later ones that were labeled this name. It's not the same. It's very interesting, and it came from a ladies' Bible class. I go over to the church building, and there are ladies. There's a little library over there. And there's old ladies Bible class books that they used. And this apparently, I don't know what it was doing there, but it was apparently one of them. And it's well marked. It was like there was a teacher, that had been reading it. And that building over there's been there for quite a while, I believe, probably 100 years. But anyway, this book is about how to talk and how to think so that you can get the best results in your life. And it does refer quite a bit to the Bible. It's not a Bible study. So I was reading it, because you kind of have to watch for signs of humanism and things that would be in direct contrast to what the Bible says. But she starts out with different chapters: overcoming hate with love, and earnest and faithful endeavor to gain right results, and self-satisfaction is a hindrance to progress, and how to mind your own business, and with all our getting, let us get charity, and how God only should be on our mind, and how the wrong thinker cannot enter heaven. And so apparently she was using this as part of her class, even though usually in the church they use just the Bible. But this was 1908, and I want to read you something that would be applicable for today. Okay? And I hope you're at work. I hope you're working. I hope you're not sitting here watching me, because there isn't anything. I'm not showing you anything anymore. So, okay, you can go to work. And so this is called Wrong Thinking Regarding Illness. And do you remember I told you the story of some of the younger women that were attending a ladies' Bible class years ago? It was probably 30 years ago. I was in a ladies' Bible class, and the older women were accustomed to being back and forth at the doctor's office all the time, and that was their social life, basically. So when they came to ladies' class, they spent quite a bit of time talking about their liver and their heart and their kidneys and their everything else. And some of the younger women were pretty grossed out about it. And if these women had had any kind of surgery, they would tell you all about that too, like their stitches and the pain, and just this constant talk of this. And so these younger women quit coming. And so the teacher called them one day and said, well, I haven't seen you in ladies' Bible class in a while. And they said, well, we'll come back if it's not an organ recital. So she told the ladies that, and there was another peep, and hasn't been for years and years. In fact, I don't think I've heard anyone talk about any illness, doctor's visits, nothing in our ladies' Bible class. So here's apparently it's been a problem since 1908 too, because here's what this lady wrote. How many people in our land, think you, are spending time in talking about sickness, and who take a special interest in pouring into the ears of their friends graphic descriptions of each ache and pain that is manifested in their bodies? Now, when I first started talking about this on the web back in 2005, I was hit with a barrage of hatred from the trolls, telling me that I was unsympathetic with the sick. And, that's what they like to do, is accuse you of being a hater with their hatred. How many are allowing thoughts of disease, sin, accidents, and death to be constantly voiced in the home? Do you not know that these unhealthful and abnormal thoughts create fear, sickness, and discord? Banish such thoughts from the home, and in their stead, seek to have normal, healthy, and happy thoughts uttered. This is what I was talking to you about yesterday, that fear creates a hardness of the heart, and also creates a kind of a suspicion of one another. Pretty soon you're going to find people policing you, because their belief in the media, of what the media reports, is so strong that it causes them to have actions. I just wish Christians were more like that with the Bible. They read the Bible, and their belief was so strong, they would be teaching it everywhere. But these people, their religion is the media. And the media is, they like to discourage people. And so these people that listen to it are so indoctrinated by it, they're going around policing everyone else. Fear is one of the weeds which needs to be ejected from our mental garden. And what are people afraid of? We all know people who are afraid of food. This was written in 1908. It sounds like today, doesn't it? We all know people who are afraid of food, of the climate, of the heat, of the cold, of water germs, air germs, and food germs. They are afraid to eat and afraid not to eat, afraid to sleep and afraid to stay awake, afraid to stay in the house and afraid to go outdoors, afraid to drink water boiled and afraid to drink it unless it is boiled. They are afraid to live, afraid to die, afraid of man, afraid of the devil, afraid of God. These dear ones need to read and study the Bible. Well, such words as these: Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. If you've got fears, that's from the Psalms. If you've got fears, you need to have that written on a little piece of paper, and whenever some disturbing thought comes into your mind and your chest starts to restrict and the nerve and you can't focus on it, get that little piece of paper out of your pocket and say it aloud. You say that aloud every time the fear comes, and you can drive that fear away. You can defeat it. Nothing shall by any means hurt you. Really, man's only safety lies in good thoughts, in a spiritual consciousness. The belief that there is reality in sickness, sin, and death will disappear as we become more fully conscious of our relationship to God. Let us see to it that the meditations of our hearts, as well as the words of our mouth, glorify our Father in heaven. Let us be lovable in our dispositions, honorable in all our dealings, and charitable to all. Let us continually radiate thoughts of love, cheerfulness, and holiness. Then into our lives will flow life's sweetest blessings. Okay, I'm not recommending you go look for this book because I believe it probably is written by someone that I don't know what her religion is, but I think probably it's not completely sound. Anytime you use something as auxiliary material with your Bible classes, you just have to be aware of that. So I want to read you a little story she put in here, though. There is a story told of an inexperienced carpet layer filling his mouth so full of tacks. Do you remember when the men used to put nails in their mouths and hold them while they were hammering a nail into a piece of wood? Do you remember when we used to have to pull the nails out of old pieces of wood and straighten them out with the hammer because our dads wanted to use them again? We never had bags of nails laying around, ever. There was never anything you couldn't use. So anyway, that's off the subject, but his mouth was so full of tacks that while working he inadvertently swallowed one of them. He became intensely frightened and hastened to a friend experienced in this line of work. The friend listened to his hurried tale, laughed at his fears, and merely said, "Oh, that's nothing. I swallow many tacks every day, and I never think about them." The young man departed greatly relieved and gave the matter no further thought. How different would have been the result if his friend had told him that he was in great danger. He had told him that he had heard about many men who had died from swallowing tacks and other such subjects. Apparently, they didn't believe that that would bother them. And of course, I don't know what kind of tacks those were, but anyway, I just thought it was interesting that these people were fighting this negative attitude back in 1908, just like we do today. We have been spoiled. We have had a wonderful success in our countries in the Western worlds, and we don't realize what really destroys these countries is bad news and the negative. The negative, that's what destroys us. So I'm going to read now a few things from my own notes, okay? And it's not easy. But some of you, if you want to turn it off now, this is political. And if you don't want to hear this, then you can just turn it off. And hopefully you did get something done in the 40 minutes, which I have already talked about. So I was thinking about this scripture, and it was You know, I didn't write down where it was. I think it was in Leviticus. Proclaim liberty throughout the land. And this was supposed to be consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land. And this was a command of God in the Old Testament. And in the New Testament, of course, your liberty is in your Christian life. But there's no use you thinking that, oh, well, we just have personal spiritual liberty. It doesn't matter what the government does to us because, you know, we can be Christians. But they are taking away your Christian liberty. And that is against God's law. That's wrong. That's very sinful. And we need to correct them. And one of the things they're taking away is hospitality and the ability to meet. And we were commanded by the Lord to assemble ourselves together once a week, Hebrews 10:25, on the first day of the week, the Lord's Day. So when they start commanding that we can't do that, then they have done wrong. And what they've done, there are several things that they have done here. They prevented you from obeying the Lord. That is very wrong. And there are two things going on here. One is our president never, ever suggested our businesses shut down. He was for common sense and good judgment. Stay an arm's length away and keep your hands clean and stay home if you're sick. But he has no jurisdiction over the state governments. So the state governments, they have these stinkers of governors who clamped down on the states and told everyone to close their businesses. But they didn't have a court order and they didn't have a writ. And the Constitution of the states have not been of each state has not been suspended, nor has the United States Constitution been suspended. So really, it's not a law. No law was passed. But these business people just shut down voluntarily. And so, but Walmart stayed open. And one of the things that the Bible teaches from the very beginning was work. And it was one of the first commands, wasn't it? Work. And so and then of course the forbidden fruit, you know, and the forbidden fruit was taken because of a lie. And so here's what's going on here is that there are a lot of lies being told to get people to fear and to disobey the Lord. And so there are people not meeting together, and they suppose that that online will do, you know, but it's not the same. And what a way to shut down churches, huh? Tell them that there's a terrible danger and they have to shut down churches. And remember, the Apostle Paul, when he was taken out of the city by the magistrates, was told not to teach, not to go back in and not to teach. And what did he say? We must obey God rather than man. Now, we have not shut down church services, and we just tell people, anyone who's fearful about this situation may stay home. We won't judge you, and you won't be shunned or disfellowshipped. Those who don't want to come don't have to, but we are having services. And so we do, and we have communion, and I still have the ladies' Bible class. But what I'm finding is that people are so tuned into the media and so tuned into this fear that they say that they're going to have to report me because it's their responsibility, and after all, lives matter more. You know? And so, but what matters more is what we do in obedience to our Lord, and we must obey God rather than man. So, avoiding the news media is very helpful because they keep you indoctrinated. It's like a drug, and you can talk to somebody, and the fear will go away. You can even listen to my video, and the fear will go away, and they'll go on their merry way, and actually they're free, and they are more creative. Their minds are free. They are relaxed. They are happy. And then you can see them the next day, and the hardness comes back, and the fear is back because they went and got their drug. They went to the media. They listened to the media. So like I say, if you've got to watch something, watch the Ron Paul videos and watch a few others of the citizens journalists. And so we haven't shut down anything, but you know, we've been taught all of our lives as Christians not to pay attention to horoscopes. You know what a horoscope is, don't you? It's where people have used the stars. It isn't a real study of astronomy. It's is the horoscope. Use the stars to predict what you should do today. And these very people that don't believe in horoscopes and would stay a mile away from Christians, members of the church, will stay a mile away from horoscopes, warn their children not to use them, will do two things: send them to the public school to be indoctrinated by these very people that don't believe in God. And then also in times like this, they will go to the news media and listen to them. And they're the same type of people. They are predicting what you're going to do. They're setting it up so that you will have a certain reaction. And one of the things they did was create the big toilet paper run. Now, what a humiliating thing to do to a dignified and civilized people than to take away one of the things that they need for proper sanitation. We are an advanced civilization. We have running water. We have flushing toilets. We have garbage disposals. We have great sanitation in our country. As a matter of fact, the sanitation trucks come by and get the trash once a week. They're still in business. We have great sanitation, but what a way to humiliate the human being and make them feel like an animal by taking away an essential part of their sanitation. This is wicked. This is really wicked. In the Old Testament, God told the Israelites and the Hebrews to wash things under running water. They weren't supposed to have a stagnant pan of water. And so you had fresh water all the time washing things in. And washing hands in running water. There was a book written about it, and it was called, goodness, I can't think of it. I bet I'll run across it when I get into my archives. Was it the Bible's Search for Cures or something like that? It's an old book that told about all the health habits of the Old Testament and how they were adapted into what we do today. Running water and taking care of illnesses and being in the sun. You know, you had to have, some things had to dry in the sun, and sometimes people had to sit in the sun. And what are these people doing? What are these, I don't know, in the media telling you that you shouldn't be in the sun, telling you that you can't go to the beach, telling you that you don't need to walk around and get fresh air. And then in some of these countries, you're supposed to report people if you see them walking around in their backyard because they're not supposed to be out. There's more bacteria inside of a closed-up house than there is outside. So here's this wickedness going on, and we have to obey God rather than man. So Bible freedom builds business and enterprise. You look at the jobs of Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel. Okay, Adam and Eve were to tend the garden. Adam was to tend the garden and name the animals, and Eve was his helper. Okay, then there was Cain and Abel, and wasn't Cain the tiller of the ground, and wasn't Abel an animal in animal husbandry? Okay, those are jobs. That is work. Now, were they just working for nothing? Well, no. There had to be, eventually there was going to be an economy, and this economy was going to take care of people. Someone's going to come and trade or buy the grain and the animals, and that's how things go. That's how they get started. And what is going on in shutting this down? And I want to say that when there's illness is when we need business, because you need things to help people. Maybe you need an extra blanket for a little child. These people hate children, you know, because you can't go buy them a little toy. And we have these governors who aren't even, the president's going to get the blame, but he never said shut business down. But you have these governors saying that you shouldn't go shopping. Okay, the businesses, they know they can't shut them down without a court order, so they just tell people don't go shopping. And then if you do go shopping, you get the evil eye from someone who's become a policeman. They taught us all to, rat on each other. A child, when they're sick, when we were little and we were home, our dad, who knew we were sick, would stop in town on his way home from work, come out to the homestead with something to give us a little comfort, favorite foods, a little toy, a little book, a little coloring book, things to help sick children. And when there's illness in your house, we need better sanitation. We need to have cleaning products, and we need to have things that we use that help us to have a healthy, clean home. Um, your paper towels, your toilet paper. What better way to humiliate a people and make them feel less than civilized than to take away these things? When you have illness going around or in the house, we need our businesses. We need to have, maybe you need a new pillow. Maybe you need to throw out your old pillows and get a fresh new one because that one maybe has too much bacteria on it. They're very difficult to wash and it doesn't really work out. Maybe you need new sheets. Maybe you need new everything. One time I had a what you call a sleep. What is it called when you can't sleep? A sleep disorder, and it went on for quite a few months. I was in my 30s, and it's so great to talk to you kids like this and tell you, that I was in my 30s once. I feel so superior. And I had trouble sleeping. I just couldn't seem to get over it. And it would go on and on and on. So I decided to change out all my sheets to natural fibers. So I got linen and I got cotton and nothing in my house. I tried to get pillows that had the down feathers or something like a cotton batting, cotton wadding, and I changed out my blankets and I also only sewed with cotton or that. And I noticed and then also I was really careful about the chemicals. That's when I got into the vinegar and soaps and things things that would be on my skin that might be, or things that I would breathe. So and the sleep disorder went away. And so we need to have our businesses going because they help the sick. They help people so if there really was a serious illness going around, these people would be guilty of depriving sick people and even guilty of death if they're shutting down business because business is what keeps the hospitals going. Business is what keeps people going with all the things they need in their first aid kits. And food, we need good food, good, clean, fresh food. We need our lemons and our oranges and our grapefruit. And to tell us not to go shopping and to tell businesses they ought to all shut down. Also, we need comforts and we need peace of mind. And how terrorizing it has been to the young mothers. They're trying to nurse their babies and they need lots of liquids and juices and they need to drink and they need to eat. And you know that a baby won't nurse very well if he senses that his mother is tense. And if he senses that she's concerned and worried, and it's just so sad. And what about all these ladies that want to conceive and they are, glued into the news media, and this fear will prevent them from conceiving? Then what about the ladies that are having babies? The extra stress that's on them during their labor. This is terrible. This is terrible. These people don't care about people. These people that are shutting us down, and it is the governors, not our president, and they are doing it illegally, and people are following voluntarily. But and I found out, years ago, I thought I was a Christian, but I never could really, I just couldn't detect how God was working in my life. I really couldn't detect it. But when that all changed, and I thought, that church was rather dull and Christianity was rather dull, and I knew it was the right thing to do, but I just couldn't seem to get anything out of it and connect with it. But when things changed, I read Deuteronomy 6 and Ephesians 6, and you can read those two sixes, Deuteronomy 6 and Ephesians 6. Deuteronomy 6 says that the parents should teach their children as they walk, as they talk, as they sit in their house, as they walk by the way, and as they lay down. And Ephesians 6 says that you should bring your children up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. And it said, children, obey your parents. So I put those two together and I thought, something? I want to do this. I want to be successful in this. And I want my children to be successful. So how could I teach my children as I walked by the way, out shopping in the car? How could I teach them as I sat in my house? How could I teach them as I laid down if they weren't there? If the public school had them all day? How can I do that? How many times have you homeschoolers been in the car and you're going into town with your children and you start talking and you're teaching as you drive? I don't know what it is that makes, when you're driving, it makes gives you loose lips. You just start talking and exchanging. We had so many lively conversations in the car because we were teaching our children as we went by the way, as we walked by the way. And even as we were shopping, walking along the sidewalk, I would teach my children or tell them, what to notice. And then in the house at night, laying down with your children they like to pile up in the big bed, and lay down with us. And we talk about everything until they fell asleep. And sometimes, have to pick them up and carry them gently back to their own beds, but sometimes not. And so, and then Ephesians 6, so that's Deuteronomy 6. Ephesians 6, bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Is the public school the nurture and admonition of the Lord? So this was when I started getting my sleep disorder. I couldn't sleep at night because I felt like I needed to do something. I needed to obey that. And I know I was terrified, just terrified, but not terrified enough not to obey it. So I went and did it, and I had one that had a year or two in school, and I had the other two that had no school, and one had a kindergarten or something. But anyway, brought them home, and I'll have to say the one that did not have any homeschooling at all is the most easygoing, least troubled one of all of us. We're not troubled, but I'm just saying, the one that tends to get the least troubled, and it is also the kindest one. And we're all kind, but I mean, I'm just saying there's a difference in that child because he didn't have any public school at all. And so I had to do it, and then of course the troubles came upon me. And then I started to live my faith, and it was difficult. And the narrow way is hard. When I was going the broad way and had all this support and all the support structures, it was easy. Everybody was doing it. No one was giving me any trouble. Then the narrow way came, and here came the trouble. But then, in spite of it all, I started to see God's blessings in it now I had a clear conscience, and now I could see my children developing to their greatest extent, and what a delight that was. No more dull eyes, no more conflict, because when you send them to have other authorities over them, then when they come home, they're going to question your authority, and they're not going to see you as their ultimate authority. And so I could see God's blessings, and then their talents increased. My talents increased. Our home became a wonderful place. So I started to see God's blessings and really appreciated them more. But it was after I had taken a stand, okay? But it wasn't just that. It's many other things. I want to tell you a little bit about our governor out here in Oregon. She is Kate Brown, and she mandated that everybody would have to stay away from church because they would be charged with a misdemeanor and fined. And of course, no one goes to jail anymore because they shut all the jails and all the police are home quarantined. So now they're going to use fines. But I would like somebody to send Kate Brown to talk to me. I'm going to have a long talk with her. I'm going to get out all my materials, and she's going to be taught something. So if somebody wants to turn me in, you tell Kate Brown to come and see me or call me, okay? Because you see, they are our servants. We have elected them to serve us. They don't boss us, we boss them, and that's the way it'll always be. And we will see what will happen in November, because I doubt very much she's going to be sitting up there in her ivory tower telling us we can't home birth and homeschool. She's done a lot of damage to the young people in this state. And God's going to see that she gets what she deserves. So when there is sickness, we need business to be open. We need a toy for a child, coloring books, food, nice food, and fuel, cleaning supplies, and maybe new pillows, an extra blanket, and creating a sanitation problem. That the media caused this whole thing, and what a way to humiliate a people and make animals out of them. And also, They get us to disobey God. What a way to hurt a people, a Bible-believing country who loves our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who practices the resurrection celebration every year, and which is a national holiday. And what a way to hurt a people, to cause them to force them to disobey their Lord, force them to disobey hospitality, force them to disobey assembling themselves together, Hebrews 10:25, forcing them to disobey God and trying to steal them from their God. Why? Because our loyalty to God makes us free, makes us a free enterprise country, makes us a good people who care about other people. The media does not really care about children. They don't care about other people because they're telling us not to go outside in the sun. God gave us the sun. It's for us. Sun is a sanitizer. And so when there is a sickness, we need our businesses open. We need our doors open to our house. We need to be able to breathe. We need to breathe the air. And so there are some things going on that are not right, but I think as Christians we can proclaim liberty throughout the land by exercising our liberty, by doing it. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about how these people have an idea that peace means there's no conflict. Peace does not necessarily, Jesus says, my peace I give you and my peace I leave with you. Peace does not necessarily mean the absence of conflict. The kind of peace a Christian has is because we've done his will. And my husband, Mr. S., if he has to, he will go out and find something if we need it. He'll go out and find food, anything we need. Anytime I've been sick, he'll go out at midnight and find me something if I need something. And so that's what we do, is we do what God wants us to do. So the lack of peace does not mean the absence of conflict. So here's what you have. Peace of mind, peace with God, the blessings of the lack of worry, lack of fear. Now the world looks for achievement, and the world looks for peace in the idea that there won't be any conflict, there's no competition, there's no, their idea of peace is something completely different. So you might want to study peace with your children, and don't take drugs today. Don't go to the media. Don't take drugs. And ladies, I wish I had left you with something a little more cheerful. But until we can get people out and mobilize and going around, go shopping, go to Walmart, exercise your freedom, and you're not going to get rid of illness by avoiding going and getting good food. And all these wonderful people that are at work, we really need to proclaim that they are better heroes than the military, better heroes than the soldiers, better heroes than the president, because they make the country work and they are obeying God. And do you know what's interesting? In these stores where I go to, there's more young men working than women. The women have to be home with their children, but these men are healthy. They are healthy, and they're not taking any drugs. They're not wearing masks. They're not, and they're putting the stuff on the shelves, and they're serving people. And because, if you do God's will, He'll take care of the rest. So ladies, God bless you. I love you, and I hope to hear from you soon if this doesn't get taken down. Bye.